Good morning, everybody. You are tuned to Computers 2K Now on the Nissan Communications Network. I'm Amnon, your host for the next couple hours, along with Nick.
Good morning.
Good morning. And Gal is here.
Good morning.
Good morning. Spence is not going to be here today. Spence took a real nasty fall yesterday on a patch of ice and hit his head real hard on the pavement and has a concussion. He did have a CT scan and everything is okay on the inside. No bleeding or anything, but he was told not to look at any screens, TV, phone, whatever, until the dizziness is gone. And that can take a few days, a week, 2 weeks. But
It depends. He needs to stop the weed first.
So we wish him a quick recovery.
Definitely.
Our number is 919-518-9773, Computers 2K Voice on Skype. And today's show is made possible by vMix Software, by dudeinit.com, and is sponsored by Tom Sinclair of Live Streaming Gear. And I keep forgetting to mention that, there's a lot of people don't log into the chat. They just listen. And I'm wondering if a lot of them are also listening on Roku, because we've been on Roku for years now, and I never mention it. It's not that I never mention it. We don't talk a lot about it. But yeah, we are on Roku as Nissan Communications. So you can watch us there too. But you miss the chat. But you're missing the chat anyway if you don't log into the chat. So, well, go ahead. You got something?
Yeah, I sent you this earlier in the week, and I don't know if you've I doubt you've seen this, Gal, that Chrome OS now has a higher user share than Mac OS. So it's 80.5% Windows, 10.8 Chrome OS, and 7.5 Mac. So now the second most popular desktop operating system is Chrome OS, which is pretty crazy. A lot of people use Macs, right? That means a whole hell of a lot of people are using Chromebooks. It's pretty nuts.
Oh, I like this piece of news.
It's
a very good piece of news.
I would attribute it a lot also to the fact that a lot of those quote unquote laptops that people bought for their kids to study, to attend school online, were Chromebooks. And Nick, remember, you got to the point where you couldn't even buy them because there weren't enough. I remember you mentioned it, or that they were getting real expensive.
Yeah. No, there was a shortage. There's a shortage of everything. But Chrome OS has really matured over the past couple of years. When it first came out, it was fine. it was just pretty much just a web browser when it first came out, which is what the goal always was. The
Right.
goal was not to have it be Windows or Linux or Mac OS. The goal was for it to be a very simple computer.
Terminal.
And yes, and I'd say they've held to that pretty well. They have added, of course, they've vastly expanded their Chrome App Store that's available on Windows too. You can get programs, I'll call them, through Chrome. And then it was either last year, a couple years ago, they introduced the ability to run Android apps, certain Android apps on Chrome OS as well. But it's not a default feature. You've got to turn on some advanced developer mode or something like that. So it can be done, but I'd say they've held to their original statement of, hey, we're going to make a simple computer here. Now the prices have gone up because they're the original Chromebooks were very low spec computers. They weren't very exciting, but now they've got Samsung makes some like $800 or $900 Chromebooks with really nice touch screens, and I wouldn't spend $1,000 on a Chromebook, but they make them if you want one. So thought that was pretty cool to see.
Yeah. And again, it's probably has a lot to do with pricing too, because people people may not want a Windows laptop, and before
the
that,
cheap Windows laptops are suck.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not going to, if you, in my professional opinion, I deal a lot with this stuff. If you're not going to spend outside of a sale, if you're not going to spend $700 or $800 on a Windows laptop, you're probably getting something that's junk. Broad generalization, I understand, but and there's sales, an $800 MSRP you could get for $600 or something like that. But if you're buying a $400 or $500 MSRP Windows laptop, it's probably you're not going to have you're probably not going to have a great experience. Now, I did buy one recently. I talked about it. I bought that little Lenovo Windows laptop, but I bought it literally just to browse the web in the living room, and for that it works fine. I wanted to get a Chromebook, I just couldn't get one. They're just too expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to know what you're getting.
Is it possible to install Chrome OS on your own, like a Linux distro?
Can you install Chrome OS? I assume so. Install Chrome OS on any laptop or PC.
Yeah.
But there are it's called open source Chrome OS.
Because so it is based on not all of the code is open source, but most of it is. So
yeah, but so I'm looking at what it yeah. Yeah, I guess
I wonder if you can take that small machine of yours, right, and make it a Chrome OS one and see if it was worth the while. That's what's interesting.
Yeah.
It's whether it's worth the while. Yeah.
I never thought about that.
Chromium OS.
Yes, that's what it's called. And it's a Chromium project.
And that can be an interesting project.
Yeah, I might give that a shot. I have to the one thing though, so at the end of the day, it's going to be based on Linux, and the question always with laptops is drivers, right? Does the touchpad work? Does the Bluetooth work? That's been an issue because some of these cheaper computers don't use some of the more standard parts,
Maybe
Wi-Fi chips, Bluetooth chips, whatever it may be.
I think look, when you're talking about Ubuntu, I don't think you're hitting that wall, but I don't know about
Bluetooth's
other
pretty
distributions. Yeah.
Yeah, it was made. It was. I mean, some of these distributions were trying to compete with Windows.
Yeah, and things that I remember and again, this has been years ago. Linux has matured 10 times since then. But one thing I remember is that sleep functionality was always kind of an issue on laptops when you installed Linux. Is they wouldn't sleep, or they didn't sleep correctly, or they were stuck in sleep, and it was just a real, desktop doesn't matter. Like, you're not sleeping. I just little things like that I'm sure they've ironed out, but it was always like, got to make sure all this stuff works before you get started on there. But yeah, this is interesting. I never thought. Yeah, I don't know why I didn't think about this.
Well, now you got something to
I
do.
think it's not as straightforward as it should be. That's why. So that's why it will be an interesting project to see if it's easy to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see articles from 2017. I don't see anything more recent. So it's not a very popular notion.
Google will officially support. Oh, here's an article from December. Google will officially support installing Chrome OS on your old computer. You don't have to put your computer out to the pasture. Da, 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 da. Google has just acquired Neverware.
Yeah.
Yes.
Neverware.
And its
Neverware,
cloud
yeah.
and its cloud-ready installer is becoming an official Chrome OS offering. Google's Chrome OS doesn't require as much horsepower. Blah, blah, blah. Currently, Neverware offers a free home tier and 2 paid tiers that come with support mode. The company says. So it looks like this company that they bought is going to
help.
Yeah, interesting.
I'm gonna look them up. Neverware.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's
Very
an
interesting.
That's an interesting name. There's vaporware. That means it's never. It's
Yeah.
not going to happen, and neverwhere, like never.
Well, the idea of Chrome OS, right? The whole idea of the whole reason why it's such an important piece of news, right? That something like Chrome OS overshadows now Apple. First of all, an Apple, anything with the Apple OS, it's not iOS, it's how they call
OS
it.
X.
OS X, right? Anything with OS X, right? That's we're talking what 1,700 or more in price.
Yeah.
You can't find a cheap unless it's like over 3 generations old. So it means that it's a lot more accessible, right? And one of the major attraction of Chrome OS is it doesn't matter what happens on the machine itself because almost everything is cloud-based. If you are going to use an Office suite, it's going to be Google Office Suite or even the Azure's Office 365. It's not going to be anything that's installed on the PC. So content isn't going to be installed on the PC, only cached there. If you lose the machine, right, you're not losing your data. And that's what stands behind the name Neverwhere as well, right? It's like, I'm never going to need to worry about upgrades. I'm never going to need to, because everything is web-based. So yeah, it's interesting that a third-party company stepped into the area, because what I see articles even from 2017, 2016 talking about this. If you want to install Chrome OS on your PC, right, you don't go and download the application package from Google. You actually go to this third-party company that created installers. Very interesting.
Yeah, but it's a nice way for Google to even expand more on more computers.
Yes, definitely.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
And especially with schools, right, being Chrome OS centric, which makes a lot of sense.
It does.
Because of the design. Yeah, it's an interesting notion. I still find it very limiting concept. I mean, buying an expensive machine and using it with Chrome OS seems to me like a stretch, like a waste of resources. If you have the money and you paid for the machine, right, then use an actual OS, something that will allow you more. because the Chrome OS does limit you, even though it's based on Linux, it does not straightforward give you access to the Linux side of it. Very opaque in that sense. But yeah, it's I have worked on Chrome OSs in this past year, helping friends, and I was impressed by the design. So I think it's a very valid form of use, especially for those who live in the cloud, right? Where all of their services are cloud-based and stuff. It's
Live in the
fantastic.
cloud.
And it's only going to get, their market share is only going to grow because more and more people, and especially, kids that are currently in elementary school through high school, almost all of their stuff, I think, is based in the cloud. Now, the one thing that I wouldn't say hampers isn't the right word to use, but the one thing obviously with Chrome OS is gaming. That's a very popular use case for computers, especially with younger men in that in that age range. So that's obviously an issue. But other than that, I'm trying to think
But
what
you have
software.
Stadia for that.
Well, you not for much longer. They'll be done within a year.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, easily. They're in dire straits over there. I'm just trying to think. Look at if you walked into a middle school, would there be any programs that kids are installed? Because that's what it comes down to. The big difference between Chrome OS and Windows is programs. You can't install programs on
Right.
Chrome OS.
You can't install anything locally. It's all web-based.
Well, that's not true. You can install Android apps, but
right.
But program, right? Like do they need whatever it may be? Hold on, give me 1 second. I need to take out this phone call. But yeah, programs. That's what it comes down to.
Okay.
Yeah. And not only that, I mean, remember, it's a whole lot from administration angle. It's easier for the IT department of a school system to keep everything up and running, because before, with Windows, they have to go into each computer or write scripts or whatever to update everywhere. Here, it's in the cloud. The cloud is being updated. It's updated for everybody. Am I right?
No, you're completely right. It's I mean, that's the whole idea. You don't need an IT fleet,
right,
to manage a fleet of computers.
Yep.
Right. You lease that by just paying the premium on the user license.
Right.
Yeah, it's Google's problem, right?
Yeah.
There's still an IT fleet, but it is focused on the system. And one of the interesting things is, so a smaller company, right? And I'm not talking about small companies. I'm talking like a company of 1,500, right? 1,500 people. It's like not a small company. There's still a favorable argument to use cloud services, because even though in such a company you do have professional people, you do have people who monitor and track and track every aspect of the system, the amount you are paying for downtime, right? Whenever there's a crisis, the amount of stress that the system goes into is enormous.
Sure.
And when you look at IT management in what's called cloud systems, now you're talking now moving from a focus of 1,500 people to millions of people, right? Hundreds of thousands of users,
right,
that are going to be affected by it. And so you're not getting the same level of, personal on-touch support. Is like the CEO doesn't have anybody to phone up and shout it on at the middle of the night something isn't working. But because every nuance and every change in the system in such a system is going to affect so many people, they're so more rigorous in the process of dealing with it, right? That you get better uptime. You get a much more closed loop of solving, even though you do not get a personal response, right? Which is always something. This is usually the tension between the two options, right? Managing your own, paying your own people to deal with it. These are not cheap employees. These are very expensive employees because they need to be very specialized in a lot of areas. And on the other hand, right, paying a premium per user, which might even cost them the same, right? When you're comparing, and getting less of a personal support, but getting a much higher level fidelity, right, of addressing to issues. It's an interesting balance act, right? And it seems like it's keeping. I mean, business are just growing and growing around that, so it's definitely working.
But on the Windows side, Microsoft is putting a huge push on VDI, a virtual desktop instance, and they're offering that with Azure. We actually are doing this with a customer right now. So you still need a physical computer, obviously, but you can get a terminal, and they literally make terminals that are very basic computers that essentially are used for remote desktop. But this is one of these ways that you're talking about taking that 1,500 person workforce and getting rid of higher end desktops and having to do all these. So it's just a whole lot easier with this Windows virtual desktop that Microsoft is offering. They're offering it through their Azure portal.
Microsoft is late to the game because Amazon have been selling. They're calling in Amazon. It's called workspaces. It's the same concept. Yeah. So
yeah.
And they're not the first, right? This was the business model that Citrix built. Citrix is exactly that. Is that technology self-hosted inside an organization? And now these companies, right, Amazon, Microsoft, they're saying, hey, you don't need to, you don't need some elaborate data center of your own. We can do everything for you from scratch, right? And one of the things that Microsoft has brought into this area, right, is their Azure's AD, completely off-premise Active Directory, right? Like your entire office infrastructure, IT infrastructure, can be outside of your of any data center that you host in. Everything is managed through these these remote services. You get a web UI to manage everything, and you can manage a complete remote workforce without any problems. All you need to do is just decide which piece of the puzzle you're paying for, and Microsoft is supposedly taking care of everything. That's the business plan, right? Your miles may vary, of course. Not everything is perfect. Everything is in flux. Everything is changing. This is rather new technology, but yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Hopefully, that's the way it's going to work. Like you said, the mileage may vary.
I mean, it is a huge undertaking, and it's still, and a lot of it is still in its infancy. I mean, this whole, as Gal was talking about with the whole AD sync and offsite domain, that's a relatively new thing that Microsoft is offering.
And
there are issues with
5 years, something like that, right?
Yeah,
And I'm
but it really
talking-
didn't pop off till about
Exactly.
what, a year ago or so, maybe less.
Well, a bit more. I can tell you, our products interact with it, so I've been privy to it for the past 5 years or so, like in actual enterprise environments that are using it. Always surprises me, by the way, right? Why would an enterprise
Why?
choose something like that if they already have their own IT infrastructure? But it relieves a lot of tension internally. And I'm guessing that overall, business-wise, it makes sense. So,
I mean, you look at the cost of a Windows server, the hardware, you're looking at what, $2,000 or $3,000 for the hardware, plus, if not more, depending on what kind of specs you're getting. But let's say $3,000 for the hardware. A copy of Windows Server 2019 is over $1,000. If you need SQL or anything like that, you could be talking about another $1,500 for SQL Server, and then labor to get it. And so you're looking at a $10,000 project to get an on-prem 2019 server, built and deployed. Or, you're already paying for 365. You're already paying Microsoft for all these other products, or add a couple dollars a user for some of these cloud services and not have to deal with an on-prem server. You're right. It absolutely makes sense. Because, by the way, that 2019 server, now you've got to maintain and manage it, or have somebody maintain and manage it. And at the end of the day, we see it now still. A whole bunch of people still run in 2008. It doesn't run forever. It will eventually end of life, and that is an issue.
Yeah, and talking
yeah,
about
upgrading is the most important case.
but look what they're doing now. In a company blog post Thursday, Microsoft released more details about the new flat price version of its office productivity software coming later this year. The company emphasized that while its main focus remains in its subscription offering, Microsoft 365, it will release the one-time purchase Office 2021 for those who aren't ready to move to the cloud. So they used to sell their package like that you buy Microsoft Office before 365 came to be. You bought it and you used it, and after so many years, you would go and buy a new one. I don't know of any company that actually bought it every year. It's expensive. They're not mentioning anything about price here, but they're introducing again. Hey, buy it one time. Why? I don't know. I mean, if they're focusing on 365, and for how many years has it been since 365? It's not a year
there's
or
a key. There's a key issue though with 365. You as a home user do not want to buy 365.
Right. So
Yeah.
what? So what?
But you do get free usage of their web applications today.
You do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, they're I think they are they're closing that gap by that offering. Of course, it's not as good as running Word on your machine, right? But I don't think the home users is of any concerns of them when it comes to income, right? It's either bundled with the sale of the computer or it's not. And I doubt the majority of income comes from home users, right? I think it's a very small slice.
Right. They're for business.
Yeah.
Now, are you using Office 365, Nick? Got
Mhm.
it?
Yeah, when you via work. Yeah.
What happens if your internet is down?
Oh,
do
not
you
a
mean?
problem. You install the software, it's licensed. You
Locally.
just need it during the installation. That's all.
So it's still running locally.
Well, you can run it. Look, you don't have to, but you can.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to.
But if you don't run it locally, if you don't install it locally, what happens if your internet goes down?
But what do you mean? What
Yeah, I mean,
happens if
can you
your
use
internet
Microsoft Word?
No, because you don't have it
If
installed.
I'm using the web-based, of course not. But I can install it
Locally.
right? Locally.
And-
As long as I've logged in at least once in the past, I don't know, 3 months, right?
Mhm.
or a month, I've logged in, then it's activated and not a problem.
Okay, so how much does it cost a month? Office 365 on the
So, like,
average. On the average.
between like 8 and 15, I think, is with the range. So let's call it $12.
Okay, so let's say a year will be about $150.
Yeah,
I
give or
think
take.
less. I think there's there are offers for much less.
But let's say,
I'll check.
so this is for Microsoft Office. That's not just for Word, right?
It's Office
When you're
365.
talking about
Right.
365, it's
So,
Office. Yeah.
so you can't beat that price because I'm sure when you go to buy it, unless it's like home and teachers, whatever the student, which was also around the $150. Here you're getting an updated it just rolling.
Yeah, but you have to pay for it
Yeah.
monthly, and that's a big issue for a lot of people.
No,
Myself
hold on.
included.
You pay on it yearly. First of all,
Oh, okay.
$70 a year for
Okay.
a personal, for personal,
Yeah.
and family. It costs $100 a year. It's for 2 to 6 people.
So if it's 100, it's $120 a year.
No, 100 for a year. 100 for the entire year for 6 people.
Oh,
That includes 6
Yeah.
separate accounts that can log in, right?
yeah.
It
So
can
it's
mean more. It can even mean more computers,
Mhm.
right? Because each account can have it installed in multiple
On
locations.
multiple,
So
yeah.
yeah.
So
Price wise, it's a very good deal.
Yeah.
And if you're talking about the original price of Office, which was around $300, right? The professional suite, and you would buy it once every 3 years,
right.
then it's equivalent.
Yeah.
Right. Every 3 years you upgrade. So
So that when you have to pay for it as a subscription, it seems like, oh, I'm going to be paying more. No, not necessarily. Now, for people
yeah,
like
here,
me,
the
that's still,
one-time purchase would be $150
and it depends
if
for
you
who,
buy the Office Home Student, the standalone,
right?
the one that you install and is completely offline.
Yeah. Unless you're using Office for 10 years, the same version.
Yeah, and then
Don't
and
ask
then
me
you get
how
to
I know.
situation- No, you can use it for 10 years.
Yeah.
There's no problem, right?
Right.
It's
Right.
just the format. You're starting to receive formats that you can't open and
Yep.
stuff like that,
Yep.
right? Yeah.
Yep.
You're dealing with an outdated piece of software,
Right.
and of course, you're not getting security updates, and so that can be a problem.
Now, I had a situation with a customer this week that because I don't use Outlook, I didn't know what to tell him. She called and she said she cannot send or receive email. I said, okay, so you may be blacklisted. What's your IP? No, she was not. I asked her what version it is. She said, I'm not sure. It's pretty new. We're all using the same version around in the office, and it's 365.
Okay.
I said, well, I mean, I got to get some error. So does it come back with any error? She said it just comes back and it says it cannot connect. And I said, no, there's got to be more to it. I mean, look on the bottom right. She said, oh, yeah, every now and then I see that error and a orange triangle. I said, okay, just hover over it. What does it say? Well, she said it was telling her that the message store or something store was full and she needs to get in touch with somebody. I can't remember what it was. Media store. It was something that that tells you that there's no space.
Yeah.
And I'm saying, are you sure this is a later version of,
Yeah.
of Outlook. She said, I'm sure. I mean, everybody's using the same. Now, this is the administrator in the office. So there's a lot
Okay.
of mail that goes to that mailbox. But I said, I didn't think there was a limit unless you run out of disk space. So I had her look at the disk space, and no, it's oodles and oodles of gigabytes available. And I
Yeah, but if
told
you're talking about 365, that means everything's in the cloud, no? The
yes and
mailbox.
no. I mean, they are. I mean, she could go to the sent and to the deleted, and there were messages in there. Of course, yeah. Now that you mention it, that may not mean that it's locally, but I'm sure it's locally. They're an accounting store office. So I don't know. Bottom line is, I told her, I said, you need to get with Phil, which is the husband of the owner, who is a MCSC, whatever used to be, and he installed everything, and he can probably figure it out. But I went looking, and yeah, you can archive and you can do that. I said, look, I am not familiar with Outlook. I don't want you to mess it up. Call him. I didn't hear since. This was last Tuesday. So apparently
Right.
it got fixed. But I mean, to help her right there. And then I said, well, just log on to the web-based email on Delta Force and see what's coming in, and you can send mail and all that. But don't use it as your main one. Fix it. And
Sure.
it brought back, like off when we went from Office up to 2007, Outlook 2007 had a bigger mailbox or PST limit. The one before that, I think, had 2 gig, like 2003, 97, 2002. And I'm saying there shouldn't be any limit now. I did not hear, so I don't know what to say about it as far as what the problem was. I guess I'll try and call Phil next week and see. Hey,
They're only using your services for domain hosting, right?
yeah,
So, yeah. I'm guessing it's something to do on the storage end. I don't know about limit. There's probably some limit.
I can't remember what
6 terabyte of cloud storage per person. No, 1 terabyte. Well, that's the personal. They're probably using a business account.
I don't know. I really don't think they're using cloud services to store it because they're that. First of all, oh yeah, I'm sure they're not. It's POP, so POP cannot go up out there, right?
Well, why not? You can use POP to pull from there. The question is,
That's true. They
are
use it
they
as a
using
drive.
your mail server? If they're using your mail
Yeah.
server,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
another complete.
No, they're
Yeah.
using the incoming and outgoing of
Then the
Delta Force.
storage is based on what your mail
Okay.
server says.
Well, yeah, no, but there was her mailbox was empty on the server.
Yeah.
It was so fast. I mean, she clicks send and bang, she gets it's like she never really, when I was monitoring, she didn't never hit the mail server at all. It's like it was, I said it's something locally. You need to find out. And then
Yeah, there's probably a relay somewhere.
so it was
Interesting.
interesting. Yeah. Yeah. So it was it was interesting. All right, now I want to talk about something that happened the week before last that lingered. Cell phones.
Okay.
Kathy's been telling me now for about a week or two that she couldn't call me when she was out. That it told her that something voice is not available for this call. Something like that. And she
Wi-Fi
couldn't.
calling, maybe?
No, it was like there's no service for voice. And I said, well, maybe your signal was down or something. But she never looked. I could never recreate it when she was here.
Yeah.
Um, she went to the doctor, and they require you to call in before you go in to make sure nobody's in the waiting room, COVID
Right.
related.
Yeah.
And she couldn't call.
Hmm.
And but she knocked on the door, and anyway, she got it, and she came back, and she was pissed. She said, "What good is it to have a phone and it doesn't do it?" I said, "All right, let's see." So I'm trying it. I'm calling one of our landlines, I
Yeah.
mean our numbers, and it's quiet. Nothing happens. Then, So I'm walking to the uh, terminal adapter to see if actually if the lines are up. No, they're up and everything. Suddenly, it started ringing. I said, "Huh? What's?" I mean, it's been probably about 45 seconds to walk from the kitchen to the office, and I hung up. I called again. Quiet. I just sat there with the phone, and after about 40 seconds, bam! It started ringing.
Like a call forwarding thing.
It, well, yeah, but I mean, even call forwarding doesn't take that long.
Yeah.
So I tried it again and again, and sure enough, it's doing this. I pulled the SIM out. I pushed it back in. I did everything that I could do. So I said, "Well, my phone is working just right. They are exactly the same phone, uh, in the same area, right next to each other. My phone is working like it's supposed to, so it's got to be the phone." So I called Motorola. Sure enough, I got somebody that knew what he was talking about. And he had me do this, do that. And finally, he had me reset the networking and Wi Fi and Bluetooth. There's something that you can reset there. He said, let's see. So I did. It didn't solve the problem. I could never get that thing about the media, not the media, the voice not available or whatever. So he said, well, you need to call your provider and make sure that it's not their problem. And then if it is, call us back. Give me a ticket number and everything. I called Verizon, and he's looking at this and looking at that. He said, I need to kick it up. So hold on. I'm going to transfer you to somebody else. So he did. And now I'm talking to somebody in the States. And he's asking me again the same questions and this and that. Oh, and what did you do? And at this point, I'm sitting there and I'm comparing while I'm talking and I'm on hold with them. I'm comparing the two phones, and I got to the um, networking and mobile networks, and it says Verizon, and you click on that, and you have all kind of options. And
Yeah.
on my phone, there was one option that was not on hers, which was a VoLTE. Was not
Yeah.
there even.
Voice over LTE.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was not even an option in her list.
And it's the same model?
Same
phone?
model, same software version, same everything.
Yeah, well, when the SIM registers, when the
Well,
line registers, it should be automatically updated.
that's
and
what I
wasn't.
thought. Yeah. So I told him, I said, I'm seeing this thing is missing on mine, because I went right away while I was still on hold and I Googled it, and they tell you to turn it on. You go there, and there on the right side, there's a switch, and you turn it on, or you can turn it off. and mine was on. Hers was not even there. So I told him, and he said, "Well, let me look at something." So he came back. He said, "Do you mind restarting your phone?" So I restarted the phone again, and he said, "Try it now." And I tried it, and sure enough, it worked perfect. And I tried it again. I tried about 4 times, and it worked perfect. I said, "Okay, so tell me what was going on.
Yeah.
What did you change?" He said, her HD voice was
Yeah.
not
That's voice over LTE.
was not enabled in our system for some reason.
Huh.
And what happens is, and this is why this is important for other people to know about this. The phone was working perfectly up to about 2 weeks ago. I said, "So why
Yeah.
suddenly?" He said, "Well, here's what I'm thinking. We are shutting down 3G."
The old networks. Yeah.
And he said it may be that when she was at certain places, it could not, first of all, it would not connect to 4G. It would be connected to 3G. And if it was an area that we shut down, it will try and find a tower that has 3G until it finds it, and then it will connect. So this was very, very interesting to learn that.
That's why I
Well,
buy an iPhone.
first of all, you're lucky to get someone who actually
Yeah,
understands their system on
absolutely.
their end.
Yeah, I know. But this is why I said I got to talk about it, because if other people are having a problem, I mean, you need to make sure that you have HD. Yeah, on some phones, they call it HD voice. On some phones, they call it voice over LTE. And there may be some other enhanced voice. And you
I
got to
think the
make sure that you
technology
have
name
it.
is voice over LTE, and HD voice is the offering that Verizon calls it
Well,
internally. Yeah.
so he said, "Okay, so I enabled it." And I said, "So why wasn't it why was it disabled to begin with?" He said, "Who knows? The phone worked okay all along." I said, "She never complained." So apparently, for and Kathy is using the phone, well, on Wi-Fi mainly. So I guess you couldn't tell, but she never complained about it being slow. But he said, yeah, if it was not connecting to 4G before you got the new phones, then when we cloned or when we copied the SIM, because the new phone takes a smaller SIM, it copies the same features, and it was not on it. Now, the interesting thing is, it's still not in there. There is no VoLTE in the options. I said, "But it's still not there." He said, "I can assure you that it's on right now."
Yeah. Well, you're talking about I'm not sure it's important that that entry will exist.
Well, no, it's
I
not.
know what you mean. It's in the APNs, right? It's called APNs.
It's
Um,
it's right under when you go to see your default carrier. There are,
yeah.
and you click on it. Like first, you have the Wi-Fi, which, and right below it, it says mobile networks, mobile network, and it says who.
Access point names. That's what you're looking at, right?
No, I'm looking in the mobile network.
Yeah. There's a lot of entries in the mobile network.
Well, right
This is
under the
on
mobile
my
network, there one of them says on my phone it says VoLTE. On hers, it did not have it. Yeah, there are a bunch of different things,
yeah.
but everything else was exactly the way it is on my phone. It was not different, except
Yeah.
that entry was not there. And really, like you said, it's not important to have it as long it should stay on all the time. Why give me even the option to turn it down, to turn it off?
Well, I'm guessing it has to do with when you're traveling, when you're roaming into networks where the switching would be by default wrong.
Possible.
And it'll try, yeah. But yeah, preserve battery power, stuff like that.
Well, it was interesting that once he enabled it and asked me to restart the phone, everything was fine. And yeah, I mean, I had her call me whenever she was out. I call her and I said, "You call me," and it's working fine. So if you do, so it turns out it looks like it is because they are turning off 3G services, and they don't do it at bam at once. They do it by areas, by towers. I don't know. I mean, I didn't get into that with them, but he said that we have areas that we don't have 3G anymore, and that may be that it was just hunting for something to connect to, and that was the delay.
Interesting.
So if you have that problem with your phone, think about that. All is fine now. Yeah, it's very interesting. And Jason is saying that it sounds like DNS caching error on her side. I'm talking about the Outlook, not sending and receiving. That's
Always DNS.
always DNS.
Always DNS. Refrigerator's not working. DNS. Yeah. Your pipes are bursting because it's too cold. DNS. I mean, this is what I've learned working in IT over the past year and a half. If there is an issue somewhere, the marriage isn't working
DNS.
out, well, it's probably DNS. I hate to break it to you. Sorry.
Yep.
It is a wacky. It is like it's DNS is kind of like black magic. It really is. Makes no sense at all.
Yeah, it's got a lot of tentacles all over the place. It's amazing what DNS
It's
can
a
do.
terrible, terrible technology.
No, but that's the only thing we have.
It's awful. Yeah.
Another thing for people that have. What did you say, God? I'm sorry.
No, I'm saying, what are you talking about? It's
No.
awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing's better than
try
waiting
this.
48 hours for a freaking A record to update. And what a
Try
great
this.
system.
Try this. Type computers2know.com and hit enter. That's DNS, man.
No, see, I'm getting a bad. I'm getting an error telling me hostname cannot be resolved. See, this is DNS is failing me.
Do you remember whitehouse.com? Nah, it's before your time.
Yeah, I've heard the stories of whitehouse.com. Yes.
Well, I don't remember.
So whitehouse.gov was the official.
The
official White House, and whitehouse.com was a sex, a porn site.
Yeah, porno site.
Yeah.
I think it was an actual strippers club or something like that.
I found out, speaking of domains, I found out something interesting this past week. One of our customers is a credit union. They're a literal co-op, which is something like the members own 50%. There's some legal definition of what a cooperative is. You can't register a .coop domain without going through a verification process, which I found out.
Yeah, there's a lot of European country domains that you can only purchase if you can prove that you are a citizen of those countries. There's a lot of of restriction.
Not just Europeans, Australian, most of the foreign countries. Because
no, not most of them, but a few. Definitely, there's a lot that they just sell to the whoever wants to buy. But
I don't know. I have one customer who has resellers in a bunch of countries around the world, even in Canada. If you want the .ca, he has people in an attorney in Canada to be able to purchase it, and every time he opens a new place in another country, we run into this. And there is one registrar, and I can't remember the name of it now, who actually deals with different countries. And they have a way
they'll
to
register
do
it on your behalf or whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's
But the call point is interesting. You have to submit a whole bunch of paperwork, and I was like, oh man,
Yeah.
that's pretty legit. So
Yeah, in Canada, he had to have an attorney and give him some kind of authorization, and that attorney is
hmm.
registered it. I was going through for about a month and a half with UK for his domain at the UK, back and forth and back and forth. And finally said, "Oh, okay, yeah, that's fine." Huh. Um, WordPress users this week came out something about uh, Ninja Forms,
Of course,
and
I use this freaking plugin everywhere.
yeah, and
Ninja forms.
Yeah.
Ninja Forms. Um, and they found 4 really bad vulnerabilities in it. So you need to go through and see if you're using Ninja Forms. You need to make sure that you update it. They have a big articles about it on WordFence, and it's bad.
Well, that's the security researchers found it. I don't believe it was actually exploited.
I didn't read much into it
Because I read about it because I actively use it. It
Mhm.
is, and I still would use it too. It is the I think it's the best form plugin that you can get as Ninja Forms. I've used a whole bunch of them. I really like it. But to me, it didn't seem like it was an exploit that was actually being used. It was found out, and now obviously there's an update.
okay. Well, that's good
No,
to
but
know.
still a problem. But
Good to know. Um,
saw a lot of interesting stories this week about, this isn't really tech, but about generators and all that other stuff. Now, we all live here. I live on the coast, and that's a big deal. Um, these little I talked about them the other week. Those big power packs that you can buy that are like $500 or $600.
mhm.
Um, those that I think everybody needs one of those.
Tell us why.
Well, so I was reading about what went on in Texas this past week, and well, there was a whole bunch of issues. First of all, I could not wrap my head around the fact that people had no supplies or anything on hand, which was just shocking to me. Like literally nothing. Like within 2 days of not having power, they're like, "Oh my god, we don't have any food." And it's like, you don't have canned food for more than 2 days. So that was pretty shocking. Um, And the other issue is people were, obviously using your car is good. Most cars now, if within the last 15 years, or not 15, probably last 10 years, have USB, so people are able to keep their phones and whatnot charged. But those, I don't know what they're called exactly. They're battery. They're essentially, it's an inverter for all intents and purposes.
Right. It's not a generator.
But they call, see, that's the thing though. They call them generators. They're essentially they're power stations.
Right.
They're expensive because they're huge. I mean, they've got huge batteries, and some of them will do some, pretty significant outputs. I mean, this one I'm looking at right here, it was do a peak of 150 watts. That's a lot of power. 150 watts is a lot. So I'm on the fence about these things.
150 watts or kilowatts?
No, 150 watts. Peak
Oh.
150 watt. That's a lot.
150 watts an hour, WH.
No, not watt hours. I'm talking about peak voltage of 150 watts,
Okay.
which is a
That's-
lot. I mean, you can power. I mean,
Right.
I-
The question is for how long?
no, well, it's just a peak. So like, a heater or something, when it kicks on, it's got that initial surge of power. It won't flip that as long as it's under 150 watts. 100 watts is the normal output. That's just one of them. They sell bigger ones and whatnot.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
We're talking about those battery packs. Basically, it's like a vehicle battery pack, right?
Mhm.
In size. It just has outlets on them and USBs and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, but you can take a UPS and hook a big car battery or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5.
But portability is the key with this thing. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
but
what's nice about these.
So when you're talking about that they are big.
Well, I mean, they're big, like they're the size of like a car
UPS.
battery.
Yeah. Okay.
They're the size of a UPS. They usually have a handle,
Mhm.
and you charge them. But I think they're designed well. That's a real question. I wonder how much time they would provide. Let's say powering a fridge, right? It'll probably be a few minutes. But powering
You
a
could
bunch
not.
of chargers, then that will be a few
Yeah, I mean,
hours.
it's not
So,
it's not made to replace a generator. But it is its main use is I see it as cell phones and things like that, and communication equipment, radios, whatever it may be.
I don't know. And you said $600?
They're expensive. The nice one. I mean, you can get cheaper ones for $200 or $300. But the nicer ones are $499, $599.
Well, I mean,
and it's all, but the battery. I mean, the more expensive they are, the bigger the
battery. Yeah,
the bigger the battery on the inside, the longer usage.
So Amnon, just to reiterate, they are a sort of a form factor, of a portable form factor for a UPS.
Yeah.
They work practically the same concept, right?
Right.
A battery that's charged, you can charge via the main line constantly and just unhook it when you need it, right? And they have a bunch of sockets, including 120 volts. So they're very convenient. What I find most intriguing when it comes to the technology of portable power is the small jump starter kits, which act as a cell phone charger, right? On top of that, I think those are the most versatile because form factor size. We're talking about something,
it's smaller than what you were just
5 cell phones combined in size, right? But you get something that can jumpstart your car, and can power your small devices for a while. But when it comes to, I mean, you talked about Texas. There were at least 4 days without power, right?
Yeah.
Some places are probably still suffering. So only a generator would help there.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm just thinking, if you're gonna pay 500, 400 for 100 watts, you can buy a small generator that provides almost 1,000 watts for a lot cheaper. A lot cheaper.
Yeah, two different devices, two different use cases.
I understand, but
I mean, it's not. Yeah.
But I mean,
so that's why I say go to the smaller form factor. I don't think this large form factor has any benefits to it.
Right, because
it's heavy, hauling it around, it's problematic.
Portability is if you're taking it with you.
Well, you can't run a generator inside. You can't if you live in an apartment complex. You can't have a generator.
True.
If you live on the 3rd floor of an apartment like I used to, you can't. I mean, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?
Right, but instead of buying one chunky chunk, right, that cost you $500, buy 3
little ones,
like medium size that are, they're still 200.
I mean, they're not that big. I mean, it's the size of like a hand cool, like a hand cool. I mean, it's nothing crazy.
But that means they can only help you in a single location at home. And if you're talking about right, stuck at home, seems to me that splitting it up. But yeah, it all depends on what your real need is.
There are cons,
Let's
pros
put
and
it this way:
cons.
if you're powering your ham radio through it, then you probably need a higher output, right?
Yeah.
Probably need something larger, but it all depends on what you need to power. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
as,
I would. I mean, if I was in this boat, I would just. And again, it's for home. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can put it in a car. You know,
well, no, that's
a good.
another use case for these is people that camp and hike. Instead of
Yeah.
carrying around a Honda 1000 or whatever on your camping trips, you use this thing.
Yeah, but 100 watts is not much.
What do you the goal is not to have unlimited power. The goal is just to be able to do things like charge phones and things
Well,
like that.
yeah, but again, so to charge phones and
Unlimited
things like
power.
that, buy a little thing like the ones that we bought that has even what is that, the solar charger on it, and you leave it outside on a branch, and it charges itself up, and it's enough for 2-3 charging off a phone. I mean, I'm trying to find where that option.
Well, they're very
is.
popular. It's got this one I'm looking at has 5,000 reviews on Amazon. So I mean, somebody's buying these things.
Oh yeah, I'm sure people. How heavy are they? Did they say? I
They're all
understand.
fake.
I mean, they might be. Hey, that's not true. I'm running your stupid plugin. It doesn't say it's fake.
Okay.
They don't talk about weight, Nick.
I'm looking. Hold on a second.
Because I don't know. I'm with Gal on this. You know, buy one of those jump.
No, but it
packs.
really depends. I mean,
10 pounds.
Oh, okay, that's not much. So
when it
that's not
comes
a
to
big
Nick,
battery.
He knows to gauge his, the way he's going to use it, and he does have some fringe uses that might not be, suitable for all, but for him, it might make a lot of sense. Yeah.
So as we move closer to the hurricane season here on the coast, have your ducks in a row.
Yeah, I've got Canadian geese.
What do they do?
The big geese. You know.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about the generators.
Oh. No, most people don't have those.
Right. Nick,
is it worth wiring a generator into your house?
A what?
Is it worth wiring a generator into your house?
It depends.
If you don't have if not one of the big ones that you have, but like the regular ones that like normal people like I do, like the 4,000.
It all depends how often you need it. I mean, the reason why I got those generators is because I had servers here and we have a lot of power interruptions.
Yeah. If
we only had it when there's a hurricane or something, I probably wouldn't have something that big. So before, when I had the 4500 or whatever, it was just like you're doing, extension cords for refrigerator, a couple of lights, and another one just maybe if I want to start the toaster in the morning, coffee maker, and you do it at separate times.
That's what I was thinking. No, that's what I do. I was just thinking about.
It's fine. It's it's easier if you wire it, but then you have to remember to go and either you put a box on the side just for the generator and you put just so many breakers or lines to it. The way that we had it done, it's just going into the main breaker box. So if you turn it on and you turn off the power, everything in the house is powered up. But even that, there's no need for this. So before I do any of that, I turn off the water heater, I turn off the stovetop. But yeah, these are the two that I turn off. Just so because there's no need. I mean, hot water, I mean, if we do need it because it's an extended, then you can turn it on and it's fine. But there's no need for water heater to keep on draining, because the more on it, the less time it will last on a tank of gas.
Yeah, I've got the Predator 4375,
Yeah,
which is the Harbor Freight unit. Works well.
Yep.
Kept me up during Isai or however the hell you pronounce it. the last hurricane. You know, it's funny. I've been in North Carolina, 3 years? There's been a hurricane every freaking year.
Yep. Well, in your area.
Well, yes, but it's not normally. There's not a there's always some remnants of a hurricane every year where we live on the coast, but there's been Florence and Dorian, which are two pretty big storms. Isai was kind of a joke, but pretty funny.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a necessity in certain part of the country, and really for anybody. Now, yesterday I got a call from one of
They're very cheap. Like these Predators are like $400.
Yeah.
But you have to take good care of them. That's the key. I mean, if you can't, unlike a more expensive unit like a nice Honda, where you could probably be a little more lax with the maintenance on it, these you don't want to do that because then they won't work.
I got a call from one of my old military vehicle buddies yesterday saying, he said, do you want a 60K generator? And I said, nah, I don't know that I need it. He said, it's free. I said, what do you mean? He said, it's somebody and it's here in Raleigh off of Ridge Road, if anybody. He was telling me it's a World War II generator. I never knew that there was such a thing back then. But it's a big generator. I would have gone and got it, but it's not on wheels. It's on a skid. So I said, nah.
You don't have your forklift in the truck?
Left it at home.
But damn, I'm looking at these World War II generators. These sons of bitches are huge.
Oh, so there were such a thing?
I searched World War II generators and there's pictures of them. Okay. That thing has got to be the most inefficient piece of.
Yeah, he said that. He said the guy has about 100 acres. 10 acres, 100 acres, I can't remember. But he said people all around him couldn't sleep. It's so loud. And he put extra mufflers on it. But it's free. They are developing the area and they want to get rid of it. They want somebody to come pick it up. If you're interested, I will. You can call me later, 919-852-2121, and I'll give you Steve's number, and you can discuss it with him how to get there.
So I'm looking at these are portable World War II generators. These are interesting. They look like water pumps, but it's a field generator.
I don't know, but it's 60K. I mean, that's
a big one. Yeah.
That's big. Yeah, that will power a neighborhood.
Well, there you go. Going with a couple neighbors.
Yeah.
And then just string a bunch of wire across your neighborhood. I'm sure that's definitely not a fire hazard.
Spider it in there, yeah.
Yeah. So, just go rent a trencher at Home Depot and make it happen. Anyway.
So I got one PSA.
Yeah.
That we discussed earlier.
Yep.
LastPass. If anybody who's listening to us is using LastPass, if you're using the free tier, you're going to be hit by a change that they're going to issue on March 16th. Basically, they're going to limit their free tier more than it's limited today. And it'll stop syncing across platforms. So if you're looking for alternatives, start now. I can recommend what I'm using. It's completely free. You can self-host it as well. It's called Bitwarden. I looked at their paid tier, and it looks like they're the best value out there if you choose the hosted version, where you host it at bitwarden.com, and but you can host it locally on your network, or you can, if you have a virtual server somewhere that you're running, you can run it there. Um, so definitely take a look at Bitwarden as an option. Of course, you can use any of the other popular ones, 1Password, etc., or just run KeyPass on your machine. But if you're using LastPass and you've grown reliant on it, and you're using the free tier, know that March 16 is going to introduce a change. And another point, which Amnon, I was delighted when you sent this to me. So when you're thinking about music and DRM, which artist comes to mind first? For me, it is always Metallica.
Metallica.
Right? It is always Metallica. And Metallica is like the big bad of all of the artists.
They're the one that squished.
They are the face of
Napster.
It because they were the most prominent when it started being an issue.
Yeah.
They
no. They made it an issue.
Yeah, they took the side of the music industry, right? Out. So there are the artists that stood in front and personally persecuted and accused their fans who were pirating their content.
Right.
And that was Napster time, when pirating became very easy for the first time. They literally persecuted the grandma whose grandson would download on her computer a song of theirs. They have become like the worst when it comes to that. And not only that, they lost a huge section of their fans for it. They become these antagonizers when it comes to DRM. And this news article states this. I'll just read it because it's fantastic. So late night Friday night, the AV Club describes Metallica's appearance at the opening ceremonies of the online version of Blizzard's entertainment annual event, BlizzCon. The opening ceremonies were being broadcast online, both through the official BlizzCon page, YouTube, and Twitch. And you guys, I don't know if you've ever been on this show and suddenly we lost audio because something was playing in the background that shouldn't. But DCMA takedowns have been DMCA.
The
takedowns have been the reality for the past 5 to 6 years. Per Uproxx, the audio of James Lars and the Boys performance apparently went out as per usual on YouTube and the BlizzCon page, although the whole thing appeared to have been excised from the YouTube upload at the event. But on Twitch, things did not go so well, which is to say that even though it was being hosted on the company's official Twitch gaming channel, the performance was ominously preceded by the siren noting, "The upcoming musical performance is subject to copyright protection by the applicable copyright holder." So Metallica has muted themselves. And this is just beautiful, just because of them being the poster boy of the DMCA. And so
it's called karma.
Definitely karma here. Beautiful karma.
And not only that, they were talking about that somebody at Twitch actually played some really bad music on top of it just to fill in. There was something
But
about it that they did. They said that
I was reading I was just reading the Slashdot summary, right?
yeah.
And the comments here, they are priceless. If you have time, go there. I'll give you one. It's like um they're all talking about the best thing they did. That's the best outcome for Metallica's music, because since then, since that era, they just have become so terrible as a
Mm-hmm.
group, music wise. And so, yeah, it is beautiful karma. I gotta say, definitely.
Yep. 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 All right. Let's see what else is here. We talked about it before the show. Linux is on Mars now.
What?
Linux is on Mars.
Oh, is it on? Must be on the rover.
On the rover, they said that there is a drone, like a helicopter, on the rover, a small
Yeah.
drone, and that drone is operated, powered by Linux. So that's very interesting.
The drone, or not the drone. The rover also has two stereo microphones, and I saw a video yesterday that had the first audio ever from Mars.
Uh-huh.
Very
Oh,
weird.
that's cool.
Yeah, it just sounded like it's just like.
Well,
It
of
was,
course, wind mostly, but
yeah. I mean,
it's
yeah, it
really
was just very
Yeah,
very
but
cool
it
to hear.
sounds. It's
Yeah.
it's what. Oh. And talking about
yeah, it's still
microphones
cool.
and stuff, Sennheiser announced on Tuesday it's looking for a new partner to buy its consumer audio business,
No.
which consists of headphones and sound bars. So they're going to stay with the microphone, with the professional sound. So they want to sell their headphones and sound bars. Interesting. I mean, I don't know when they got into it, but I'm sure they know what they're doing. And if you're in the Northeast, we are delaying implementation of our new data plan in our Northeast markets until 2022, said Comcast in an announcement. In an announcement.
Comcast, more like Concast.
Yeah,
that's what Trump called
Comcast. That's right. We recognize that our data plan was new for our customers in the Northeast, and while only a very small percentage of customers need additional data, we are providing them with more time to become familiar with the new plan. Comcast has enforced the data cap in 27 of 39 states in which it operates since 2016, but not in the Northeast states where they face competition from Verizon uncapped Fios fiber to the home service. See, that's what competition does. In November 2020, Comcast announced it would bring the cap to the other 12 states and the District of Columbia. That's fine. They should put it on DC. Starting in January 2021. But with yesterday's announcement, no one in those 12 states and DC will be charged overage fees by Comcast in all of 2021. So they paid attention and said, hey, we can't do that. I don't know that they're going to lose anything because, like they say, very few customers need more data. So I don't know. Now, Nick, I don't know if you were, with Against the Norm, if you paid attention to this. Facebook said Wednesday that it would no longer allow Australian publishers to share news on Facebook.
Yes,
So, are you familiar with the whole thing?
I am actually. So
Okay. Is this
this
something you're going to talk tonight on? I
no,
guess.
probably not.
So let's see.
Yeah, no, probably not. But either way, we'll talk about it here. So this all goes back to Google News years ago in Australia. Um, the Australian government has decided that if you are going to take a bunch of news content, which is what um, Facebook and Google and promote it, that them Facebook or Google needs to pay the originators of the content. So as it stands right now, Facebook has, and again, the Australian government put this in place, not Facebook. So because of this new law that requires payment to these media outlets, Facebook has essentially suspended and gotten rid of um, those services. So that stuff is now not available on Facebook because Facebook doesn't want to pay um, publishers. So what will happen though is they will come to some sort of agreement because that's what Google did, and Google um, partnered up with a couple of those Australian news agencies and has worked out some sort of deal for compensation for something. So a similar thing will happen with Facebook, but it brings up the interesting question of, you know, the Australian government tends to be pretty crazy when it comes to this stuff. They tend to be arguably the most strict in the free world, I'll call it, with some semblance of democracy with these kind of rash decisions. They do it with video games and online content as well. So it's not super surprising that they did this, but it does bring forward an interesting question about your news outlet, and somebody like Facebook or Google is going to be taking your content. Taking is a subjective term. It's not like they're slapping their logo on it and saying it's ours, but should there be some sort of compensation for that content?
Mm-hmm.
As the publishers, I'm sure the answer is yes. But it's kind of
But as a publisher, you put the content online in the first place, right?
in some cases, yes. But in other cases, like if you go to Facebook or Twitter, there's like a trending tab or a news tab where it's just big stories that are going on. I think that's more what it's. That's what this focuses on, that more. But yes, yeah, and yes, in most cases, yes, you are publishing and putting the content online. So it's definitely an interesting thing. I don't imagine that it's going to be. I don't think other governments are going to follow the lead on this because it's just a stupid idea, in my opinion. But yeah, so as of right now, there is no local or even no Australian-based news on Facebook because Facebook, to protect themselves, have removed it all.
I'm moving there.
Well, they will come to an agreement or a conclusion with Facebook. Because I think I don't know if they have an attorney general or something, but I read something that he's been having some Zoom meetings with Zuckerberg and coming up with some sort of plan or whatnot. But it is interesting, to say the least.
Yes, it is interesting.
And my explanation is all over the place of what it actually is, but
And there's another situation with these companies.
okay.
It goes with a pair of votes. Maryland can now claim to be a pioneer. It's the first place in the country that will impose a tax on the sale of online ads. The House of Delegates and Senate both voted this week to override Governor Hogan's veto of a bill passed last year to levy a tax on online ads. The tax will apply to the revenue companies like Facebook and Google make from selling digital ads and will range from 2.5% to 10% per ad, depending on the value of the company selling the ad. The tax would only apply to companies making more than 100 million a year. So if that's Facebook, Twitter, Google, and if they're charging people, they pay income tax, the companies, but the state doesn't get anything from it. So here they say, hey, we can do it. It's just like what they did with sales tax with Amazon. Remember the days when Amazon and eBay, we didn't pay any sales tax, and states
when I
said, hey, we need to charge. You were going to say?
Well, when I just filed my tax return, that's what they ask you. Have you purchased anything online and not paid sales tax for it? And
they always did, but now a lot of them charge you tax right off the bat,
which is good. It's not good, but it's better than having to go back and try to calculate how much you spent online with not paying sales. I mean, either way, you're paying it, or you could just lie to the IRS, which is a plan. But yeah, it's a whole lot easier than trying to calculate how much you spent online and didn't pay sales tax on.
Right.
Either way, taxation is theft, so it shouldn't be anyway. But that's another conversation.
That's another. Yeah.
By the way, I do see this right now. Breaking news: Mars has become the second planet that has more computers running Linux than Windows. That is breaking. This is breaking news, hot off the presses as we wrap up the show this Sunday morning.
That's one way to put it.
Hey, it's breaking news.
Well,
yeah. Hey, it's tech. It's what you
call. True. It's true.
That's what you call technically true. Is the term for a statement like that.
Well,
don't even bother.
No, I'm trying. There's no follow up. I can't. I tried.
Talking now about what you were going to say something, yeah? No.
Nope.
Talking about cutting the cord and things like that. Not content anymore with just streaming Hollywood's old shows and movies, Roku is looking to produce originals.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
The company published a job listing for a lead production attorney, which spells out plans to build out an expanding slate of original content. Yeah, that would be very good.
Yeah. I mean, they are they're doing some stuff.
Yeah.
I was very early to the game with Roku. I got not super early, but when the Roku 3 first came out, which that's when it really kind of exploded, a similar time to the Chromecast, and there was this big push to, there was just a bigger push. These devices made more sense, and that was I mean, they've done it. They've absolutely done it. They're in all. There are a couple of TVs that are Roku. TLC is one. There's a couple of other brands that are Roku TV. It's literally like the whole interface is Roku.
Mm-hmm.
So it's neat. It's neat to see.
Yeah. And again,
I got my new one this week. I got the Roku Premiere, which is a little guy. It's not a stick, but it's a little
one,
box. And yeah, I mean, it's fine. Works for what I do with it. And it comes with a premium HDMI cable.
Wow.
Read the description.
That's worth it right there.
Now, I need to apologize to Gal because I should not have bought this HD home run with MPEG 2. I should have bought the one with H.264. MPEG 2 is a piece of shit, and it is a huge pain in the ass.
Return it. Not too long. It's not too. You've got what, 2 weeks?
Yeah, I ordered it February 1st.
Yeah, I would return it. Buy the.
I already threw all the boxes. I already threw all the boxes away.
Uh,
I think. So which one should I get?
It's the 2-channel. I think it's called Extreme. The
The
big
4K
problem.
one?
Maybe it's now 4K. So when Amnon purchased his, that one was already out of production,
Mhm.
and I'm trying to remember, Amnon, if you went with the 4 tuners at the end, or
Fortuner, yeah.
yeah. So Amnon is with the MPEG 2.
I don't see a 2-tuner that's not MPEG 2.
No, they stopped making it, and people are waiting for the 4-tuner H.265, but that's not out yet.
Oh, okay.
So
Then
That's
it's
also
all
the
in limbo
one.
state.
That's also
Yeah.
the one that will do the encoding, right?
Yeah.
Which mine does
Okay.
not.
Yeah. So yeah, for some reason they have not issued the one that's you check their Kickstarter page. I think that's where all the updates are posted. And yeah.
And Joey corrects me. Yes, TCL, not TLC. You are correct.
Yep.
So
Yep.
what is there anything I can do on my Plex box to make the encoding better?
Your Plex box runs on what? On a server?
Yeah, it's Ubuntu.
Yeah,
Ubuntu. You
my
can put in a
Plex.
GPU that does encoding, or you just ask. There's a
So I'm
server.
having playback issues on certain devices. It's constantly buffering.
You're talking about live, or you're talking about
Live.
recorded?
Live.
Live,
I
there's
don't
nothing
record.
you can. You need better CPUs. That's all.
Okay.
Oh, Nick, I thought it was on playback.
On playback, you can. What you
I've
can
never
do
touched playback. I
is-
don't record stuff.
So on playback, what you can use is like Sonar and Radar and those services that there is a server that's called TDAR, TDARR. And what it does, it knows how to monitor folders, check the video files there, and basically run a re-encoding if it's needed. And so it's automatically re-encoding your library per your need. It's CPU intensive or GPU, but you can run multiple CPUs and GPUs and stuff, and you can even distribute it to multiple machines, and it'll do that. So
Now there is a feature on the Roku that I found that has solved my problem on Roku. If you go into the Plex settings and go to video, there's an option that says allow MPEG 2. And the description for that is when using original video quality, enabling this setting will allow direct streaming of MPEG 2 for live TV and DVR. So that's resolved my issue on the Plex. So I believe the Roku is actually doing the encoding.
Because the Roku TV or the Roku stick can handle MPEG 2. Yeah.
Yes. So that is my solution for Roku. So on all my devices, you go into the settings and turn that on. But like, for example, the other day I tried just for the hell of it, I was playing around with my phone and installed the Plex app. Live TV is egregious on the phone. On the same network, it buffers like every 15 seconds.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, because your Wi-Fi gets saturated so fast with MPEG 2 because it's very little compression. I mean, MPEG 2 was great for DVD, but we're no longer in 480p, right? We're dealing with higher resolution. So
I guess when that new 2-tuner one comes out, I can just make an upgrade and sell this one. And
right. So it was the Quattro 4K was supposed to come out late 2020. Okay. If you can buy that, then that's your solution.
They don't have it.
Yeah, I don't think it's out either. So. Let's look at their updates. Hold on. There's firmware already, so it means they have shipped. But the real question is, can you buy it?
I don't see a way to buy it.
No, not even if you go to their site.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at.
But I mean,
Interesting.
but again, Nick, what kind of server is? Oh, you're running it in a VM. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
It's got enough resources. It's just, as Gal says, it's a very expensive thing in terms of resources to do.
Mm-hmm.
But the solution on Roku is fine because it'll handle the MPEG thing.
I never tried to play it on a phone.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not a use case that I would frequently use. I just was
playing with it.
When that tornado came through the other day, it was late, and I was gonna go, come into the office and turn on the TV, and I was like, oh, well, hold on a second, I can
do it on the phone. Yeah,
I can do it on my phone, and it was just a very piss poor experience.
I wonder if there's another tuner that will be better than this.
What is the tuner that Brian said he switched his dad to because he didn't like the HD
he switched him to the one that
Amazon
Spence
one.
has. Yeah, the Amazon one. But now Brian's got an HD home run. No, I mean, it's fine. It really is. It works fine on the Rokus, and I'm sure I could play around with some settings on the server to help me out a little bit. But yeah.
Yeah. The other day watching TV, there's a station that popped up. That's it, Selma Smithfield.
Oh,
it's on 31.4, and I saw Doctor Who. I said, "Ooh, now I can watch Doctor Who again because we don't have cable." So I tuned in when it was on, and it's Doctor Who probably from the 50s. It's black and white, and it's very interesting. I mean, it's great to watch it. But they have a lot of shows that have to do. It's like sci-fi.
what's the network name?
It's Retro TV.
Oh, Retro TV. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they have all kind of shows. The Girl from Tomorrow and Return to Jupiter, and I'm into science fiction, so it's interesting. It's older shows, but they're never seen them before, so it's very interesting to sit and watch those sometime.
Yeah, that's WARZ.
WARZ. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah.
Never seen it before. It just suddenly popped in.
There you go.
So what's new with streaming stuff, Gal?
Nothing on my end. Nothing that I've noticed.
Hannah is said a lot of good things about you. Said, I am so glad God told me about Apollo. She went for it. She went for it again. She got a Fire Stick.
Okay.
She had an old, I think it was a first or second generation Chromecast, and she said it was so. It wasn't good experience. Now, she said, with this, it is unbelievable. Everything is there. Huh?
Yeah. I mean, if you're looking for a black market solution, they're one of the best. I agree. I don't need them, so I don't use them. But yeah.
But I still don't understand why they don't go after them.
I don't know how they are protecting themselves,
Yeah.
but they still exist for years now, and
Yeah.
so
I heard that they were going down and for days at a time. And I asked, I said, so this time around, how long have you been using it? She said, oh, about a month. I said, any downtime? She said, no. Every time I turn it on, it's there. So it's
yeah,
interesting.
and I do know that from time to time, like a channel will disappear, something like that. And from what I understand, they have a very active
Customer support.
support channel.
Yeah.
Support channel. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. No,
Very
she
active
said
customer support channels on Facebook,
Facebook.
probably
Yeah.
Telegram,
Telegram. That's where all the degenerates go.
and so yeah. I got a friend who I introduced him to this, like a coworker, probably 4 years ago, and he was looking for ways to watch, NFL games,
Hmm.
uh, especially stuff that isn't local over here. And this was his solution, and he's he's using that since then.
Yeah. She
So
got it
yeah.
just because she wanted to watch that hockey from Boston. What is
The Bruins.
the Bruins? And yeah.
She wants to watch Nesson.
Yeah. Northeast Sports something. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the Boston Sports
Yep.
Channel.
Nick, you tried them together with MB, right?
MB. Yeah,
And it worked well.
it worked all right. I at the time I really didn't have a use for it, so it was kind of
Yeah, I don't have a use for it
stupid.
either, so that's why I'm
Right.
not going to test it myself. So,
It did
but
work with MB though. Yeah, I mean it worked. The biggest problem I had with MB was
Explain MB.
MB is an equivalent to Plex. It's a home media server.
well,
Um,
actually, talk about Jellyfin, which is the open source fork of MB.
okay, I don't know anything about that, but I know what.
It's the same. It's basically
Yeah, so
the
it's
same.
just
Okay.
it's an
It's
alternative to
another
Plex.
kind of
It's a
platform.
home media server, but they allow you to import IPTV services, which tend to be almost exclusively illegal. The biggest problem I had with MB though, and maybe this has
in
changed
the US.
in the US, correct?
IPTV does work in Europe and in China and stuff like that legally. Yeah.
So the biggest issue with MB was the user interface was very different on different devices. So like it would look one way in the browser and look a completely different way on the TV, and it made favoriting channels and doing things a real pain in the ass. So that was my biggest complaint was you'd set it up on the computer and okay, here are my favorite channels, all this stuff, and then you go to the Roku or Fire TV, and it's like, oh man, it's a totally different interface. So that was a concern. But I mean, it worked fine. It ran fine. I ran it alongside Plex for actually until like 3 weeks ago. I didn't realize I was still running the server at home. I just wasn't using it. So yeah, it worked fine.
Yeah.
But Plex has in the past 12 months or so, Plex has really just I mean, they've kicked it into high gear.
Well, there's a lot of content and the price is right.
Yeah, the price is free.
And in many cases, you really don't need to run it as a server app anywhere. I mean, you can just use a browser. So it's appealing to a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean their Roku picture is Plex free TV and movies, or I think is what the description of the channel is. I mean that's their they've got
Mhm.
their own services now. So
And if anybody is looking into creating a uh, Plex server or hosting at your home, a Plex server. And it doesn't have to be used for illegal stuff. I'm sure
It has to. It has to. You must break the law.
I'm sure Gal will be more than glad to set it up
any
for you.
question, yeah, I'll be happy to help.
All right. Anything else? Well, there's only one other thing here that Microsoft has begun deploying last week an update that permanently removes the Adobe Flash Player software from Windows devices.
Yipper.
The update was formally announced last year at the end of October when Microsoft and other browser makers were preparing for the impeding Flash end of life, scheduled for the end of 2020. According to a support document published at the time, the update was initially supposed to be optional. System administrators who wanted to remove Flash before the end of life date could access the Microsoft Update Catalog, download that update, and remove Flash to avoid any security related issues. But this week, multiple Windows 10 users reported that Microsoft is now forcibly installing that update on their devices and removing Flash support from the OS. I don't know why it's taking so long, but it's
You're talking about Flash.
Yeah.
Adobe, up until recently, had Adobe Air still developed, and they
Oh my
sold.
God! Forgot about
Adobe Air to another company. There's another company completely managing what was previously Adobe Air. And so I encountered it because of some game, some kids game that a family member back in Israel is using.
Mm-hmm.
And their site links to Adobe Air, and you get like a notice from Adobe that you can't blah, 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 something. Searching around a bit, you find that other company, and you can download Adobe Air from there. But it's like they're all based on the same technology, right? The Flash is just a building block of these. It was called Slackware, not Slackware. I don't remember. It had like 3 different technologies based on the same concept. And yeah, and these things, they still linger around, and they're still around. it's a sad thing.
Nick, you were going to. You said something in the beginning when
Adobe Air was, for a period of time, was pretty popular. There was lots of apps that were Adobe Air apps. They were very popular. Kind of similar to some of the Silverlight stuff, same era. I totally forgot about Adobe. I think I made an Adobe Air app at one point that did something. Cool little program.
I had one site that was developed by somebody in Flash, and a few months ago they called and they said the site is not working anymore. I said, "Oh yeah." They were trying to get the information. I said, "Yeah, you should have done it before." But then I said, "Did you try to? Maybe you have a machine that is not being updated. With an old browser, you may be able to download it and capture it the way that it's supposed to look like." And they found a Windows XP machine with an old browser. I can remember. I think it was Internet Explorer. I'm not sure, but they fired it up and they were able to capture the look of the site and the information that's in there in order to create a new website. But if you have a Flash site somewhere and it's still working, that means that your machine is not updated. I mean, the server will keep on serving it, but the browser and the operating system will not support it. I tried and I said, nah, I'm not going to I was trying to help them, and I said, "No, I'm not going to reinstall Flash from anywhere, even if I can find it.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
not going to do that." Yeah,
well, yeah, I mean, you can still install it, but no browsers, they literally will not run it anymore. Like
yeah,
even if you turn it on, for a long period of time, you could go into the advanced developer options or whatever it was and do all
Turn it.
that. It still that does not work. It is
Yeah,
gone.
you
Like
have
you
to
can,
find a browser that was not used
yeah.
in years, and not allow any updates, and go directly there. It's not,
There's probably some third
maybe, I don't know.
third party applications that still allow it, but yeah.
There is still so much garbage that is in Flash. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. All right. Anything else anybody wants to mention?
No, sir.
Well, thanks, guys. And again, hoping that maybe Spence will be with us next week.
Yeah, I really hope he feels well.
Wish him a quick recovery. So thanks, Gal. Thanks, Nick. And good morning, Kathy, Hannah, Nabil, Mac, Norm, Katie and Donna, Dina, Arlette and Michal, Eleanor. Thanks, everybody, for tuning to Computers 2K Now. We hope you enjoyed and maybe learned something from our time together. Remember to practice safe computing, back up your hard drive, and update your virus scanner. We'll be back here next Sunday at 9, but you can always reach us at computers2know.com. Tonight at 7, Nick does his Against the Norm show at atnshow.com. And if you're in Wilmington, North Carolina, you can listen to it on 106.7. On Tuesday, Nick does his Infection podcast for survival games with Brian. That's at 7 o'clock on Twitch. And you can just go to Infection Podcast, twitch.tv/Infection Podcast, one word. And that's all I have. We'll see you next week. Have a good one.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.